Hello, my friend. In the United States, you can walk into a supermarket and buy a pound of industrially raised chicken for around $2.50. Yet, that same type of chicken, those same eggs, also exist in a version that costs nearly $12.50 per pound. That's a five-fold price increase. The most astonishing part? People are lining up to buy it without a single complaint. So, what is the secret behind these premium-priced eggs and cuts of chicken? What convinces consumers to willingly pay such a significant premium? Could this be the quiet movement that is beginning to reshape American agriculture as we know it? To find the answer, we must step away from the familiar sight of industrial farms, where chickens spend their entire lives confined in cages, consuming commercial feed, and never once seeing the light of day. Instead, let us enter a completely different world, one where chickens are free to roam across wide-open pastures, scratching the soil and soaking up the sun. Imagine this. On a vast, open pasture, hundreds of chickens wander freely under the open sky. They peck at the grass, forage for bugs, and live as nature intended. There are no cramped cages, no antibiotics, no growth hormones. This is the pasture-raised model, a method that not only yields a product of superior quality, but also tells a completely different story about the life of poultry. The poultry industry is a cornerstone of American agriculture, generating over $46 billion in revenue annually, with billions of chickens raised and sold. The majority of these come from industrial farms, where chickens are raised in enclosed barns and grow at an extremely rapid pace, reaching market weight within just a few weeks. However, a new current is moving things in a different direction. From Oregon to North Carolina and Texas, a growing number of farmers are turning to raising chickens outdoors. As of now, the U.S. has around 750 officially recognized pasture-raised farms, and in the past 5 years, the number of these farms has increased by more than 60% in some states. Why are they making this switch? Is it merely a passing trend, or is it a genuinely more effective way of farming? At pasture-raised farms, chickens live on open, grassy fields, foraging on natural grains, insects, and surrounding plants. They grow much more slowly than their factory-farmed counterparts. A pasture-raised chicken typically takes around 12 to 14 weeks to reach market weight. In stark contrast, on industrial farms, chickens can reach up to 5 kilograms in just 38 days. But what's the trade-off? Industrial chickens never see daylight and live in cramped confinement. As they grow each day, their spines become weaker, their lungs less functional, and their flesh flabby from a lack of movement. The difference isn't just in how long the chickens are raised, it's in how we define real food quality. The first, most crucial step in raising chickens on pasture is choosing the right breed. Not all chickens are suited for this model. Industrial breeds, though they grow quickly, are too fragile to survive outdoors. They cannot handle the sun, are unaccustomed to moving around, and are highly prone to disease. That's why farmers who raise chickens on pasture typically choose hardy and active breeds, with the two most common being the Red Ranger and the Freedom Ranger. Not everyone gets it right from the start. Some farmers new to the pasture-raised model, thinking faster growth means more profit, initially choose industrial meat breeds. But after just a few days, the chickens start collapsing in corners, visibly weak, and begin to die off one by one. Industrial chickens are simply not bred to move. They can't handle sunlight and don't know how to forage for food on their own. Selecting the right breed is the first step toward building a healthy flock and is the foundation for success in the pasture-raised model. Once you have the right chickens, the next step is preparing the land, specifically setting up a clean, vibrant, and safe pasture. Farmers don't just let the chickens loose on any field. They must carefully choose the right plot of land, clear weeds thoroughly, and, most importantly, rotate grazing areas regularly. Every square foot of ground matters. If chickens walk over the same spot too often, the grass dies. If waste builds up, the environment becomes contaminated, increasing the risk of foot problems or digestive illnesses. That's why farmers divide the pasture into smaller sections and use mobile fencing to move the flock to a new area each day. On average, half a hectare of land can support around 500 to 600 chickens, providing enough space for them to scratch the soil, graze on grass, and roam freely without destroying the surrounding ecosystem. Even the coop must be mobile and moved daily. Every morning, the farmer gets up early, checks the direction of the sun, and pulls the coop to a fresh area of grass before setting up the feeders again. Each move is like starting from scratch, not because they're being overly meticulous, but because it's the only way to keep the flock healthy. Not everyone gets to see the very first stage of a flock's life. Right after hatching, the chicks aren't sent straight out to the pasture. Instead, they are placed in what's called a brooder, a closed, climate-controlled space with heat lamps, clean water, and easily digestible feed. The first 2 weeks, known as the brooding period, are a matter of life and death. Just one cold night or a single heat lamp failure could wipe out half the flock. During this stage, farmers often get less sleep than new parents caring for a newborn, changing bedding daily, monitoring each chick closely, and staying up past midnight just to make sure they're still drinking water. If a chick isn't strong enough to thrive here, it won't survive out on the pasture later. Once the chicks are strong and have built a stable immune system, they are released outdoors to begin living the life of a real chicken. On their first day out, the flock may seem a little confused, but within minutes, their instincts kick in. They start scratching the grass, running around, pecking at bugs, and foraging on their own. Still, even with the freedom of the open pasture, the flock is far from self-sufficient. Farmers still need to provide supplemental feed, usually organic grains, to ensure each chicken gets the nutrition it requires. In the morning, chickens roam freely across the pasture, but by late afternoon, the farmer herds them back to the coop to rest, both to protect them from predators like hawks and foxes, and to maintain a consistent daily routine. This is where the pasture-raised model truly comes to life. There are no automatic machines, no remote-controlled systems, just patience, knowledge, and the tireless footsteps of the farmer. Their job doesn't get any easier once the chickens are on pasture. In fact, it becomes even more complex. Every morning, they check the feed and water before carefully observing for anything unusual. Is that bird looking sluggish? Is this one isolating itself? Has any bird noticeably lost weight? When the sun gets too intense, they set up tent shades. When it rains too much, they move the coop to drier ground. All of it is done by hand. They minimize the use of medications, only vaccinating when absolutely necessary. Instead, they mix natural ingredients like garlic, ginger, and herbs into the feed to naturally boost the chicken's immune systems. Summer in many U.S. states, especially Texas, can be unimaginably hot. Outdoor temperatures can soar past 104 F, 40 C, with heat radiating off the ground, drying up the grass, and making the air feel suffocating. At one farm in Texas, during a single 3-day heat wave, over 150 chickens died from heat stress. Even though the coop was moved every morning and the water troughs were always full, the farmer was away from the farm for just 2 hours, and by the time they returned, a large number of chickens had already perished. When the hens reach maturity, their egg-laying cycle begins, and this is the phase most closely monitored by the farmers. Inside the coop, farmers build wooden nesting boxes placed in quiet, dry corners and filled with clean straw. The hens naturally seek out these spots to lay their eggs. There is no force, no artificial lighting, and no stimulants required. On average, each hen can lay between 250 and 300 eggs per year if properly cared for. Each day, farmers collect the eggs by hand. Any eggs that are cracked, dirty, or unusually small are set aside. Those that meet quality standards are stored in cold conditions, between 45 F and 55 F, about 7 to 13 C, before being labeled for traceability. If the farm meets all required process standards, the eggs can be certified with the USDA organic label. The eggs are then packed in recycled paper cartons or plastic trays with shock-absorbing padding, ready to be shipped. For meat chickens, when they reach around 12 to 14 weeks of age and weigh between 4 to 5.5 toneladas, about 1.8 to 2.5 kilos, farmers begin planning for harvest. The collection usually takes place in the early morning or late afternoon when the weather is coolest to reduce stress. The farmer gathers the flock into a designated area before using specialized tools to catch each bird. There is no grabbing of wings, no tossing into crates. Each bird is gently lifted and placed into a well-ventilated container, carefully avoiding broken bones or bruised meat. This gentle handling isn't just about compassion. Meat quality heavily depends on how the birds are caught and transported.